Fat Joe's penance for exploitation was not limited to artists and collaborators. Throughout his time working for Fat Joe, plaintiff personally witnessed Fat Joe engage in X relations with children who were 15 and 16 years old. Minor Doe 1. Minor Doe 1 is a 16-year-old Dominican girl residing in New York. In exchange for cash, clothing, and payment of her cell phone bill, Fat Joe would get oral X and other X acts performed on him by Minor Doe 1. On one occasion while driving in New York City, Minor Doe 1 asked Fat Joe for money to pay for his cell phone. Being notoriously cheap, Fat Joe claimed to be broke. This upset Minor Doe 1, who began yelling, cursing, and screaming. Plaintiff begged Fat Joe to pay the minor's child's phone bill, which was less than $100. Minor Doe 2, a Caucasian female, she was not a United States citizen. Fat Joe began having X relations with Minor Doe 2 when she was 15 years old after a concert overseas. Defendant flew Minor Doe 2 to New York City and Miami, Florida. On multiple occasions due to Minor Doe 2 body being adolescent and not fully formed, defendant, aka Fat Joe, paid for her to get a Brazilian butt lift. What? Minor Doe 2 eventually left Fat Joe and is now married to a professional athlete. Here's a picture of her right here. You can't put it on there, but here are the pictures of her. Minor Doe 3 with her friends from high school, the same time she is being trafficked by Fat Joe. Minor Doe 3 is a Latino female who met the defendant when she was 15 years old, turning 16. According to plaintiff, Fat Joe was in love with Minor Doe 3. He even contemplated leaving his wife. Fat Joe paid all of Minor Doe 3's bills and even took her overseas to his tour shops. He brought her to Florida and would put her up in a condo he rented a few blocks from his house from his wife. In a recorded conversation, Minor Doe 3 and her 15-year-old cousin describe in detail to plaintiff how inappropriate it was for Fat Joe, who was in his late 30s at the time, to be fawning over children. The defendant sees no shame in his depravity towards children. Defendant Cartagena has demonstrated disturbing lack of remorse and discretion regarding his predatory behavior. Rather than conceal his actions, he has on multiple occasions alluded to openly referencing actually inappropriate conduct in his public persona and artist output. In this song entitled She's My Mama, defendant delivers lyrics that, when considered in context, reflect an unhealthy, troubling fixation on underage individuals. The content of the song is explicit, suggestive, and disturbingly detailed. The defendant uses it to normalize, romanticize, or even boast about behavior that aligns with the patterns of coercion and exploitation described throughout this complaint. Plaintiff asserts these lyrical references are not fictionalized or abstract, but from part of a larger pattern in which defendant Cartagena uses his platform and music to project, excuse, and reinforce the the abuse of power and boundary violations, and have marked his conduct toward plaintiff and others under his influence. In the relevant part, defendant says that she was only 16. I had to nurture that. Gave her some growth, waited till I touched the cat. She gonna have to work if she gonna get ahead. That she drove me berserk when she gave me some head. She told me she learned that from the porno flicks. I said, Mommy, stop talking, just suck on this. I ain't said a name yet, so let's say she nothing. Now watch me turn this nothing into something. Get it? Mommy, get in that kitchen. This is free base. Just cook it till it's hard, then cut it to ace. Take a trip cross town to see true. Just get the money, don't listen to that nigga. Think he cute. See all this money we got? Going shopping, Louis Vuitton and Gucci, we got it popping. We hit the clubs on some Clico see the respect you get just from being my bed. Look, see them they slick. See them, they sick just to be in your shoes. That's the game I hit her with to leave her confused. I'm just using her for paper. She want a man. I'm about to see my other B. I hope she understands. Based on this information and belief, She's My Mama was written about M. Doe 3, who confirms engaging in many of the acts outlined in the lyrics above. Yeah, bro, this lawsuit is beyond Diddy. This lawsuit is beyond Diddy, bro. Already, y'all heard in that beginning, they said Fat Joe running around with kids. Like he running a Chuck E. Cheese for teenagers. I'm going to play y'all some of the lawsuit, about 18 minutes worth. It's going to be a little longer video, but trust me, the full one, I'll put it on the Seti Nash Clips channel. I'll pin that channel in the comments so y'all can get subscribed and be ready for when it drops, because lordy, let's get into it. 157-page document in its entirety reading will be on the Seti Nash Clips channel. I'm going to just give y'all a 15-minute synopsis real quick. And yeah, we're just going to do it that way. So it says United States District Court, Southern District of New York. So you have Terrance Dixon, that's TA. Then you have Fat Joe, Pistol Pete, Rich Player, Erica Juliana Moria, Sneaker Addict, Torin LLC, Slate Incorporated, Rock Nation LLC, John Doe's 1 through 10, Jane Doe's 1 through 10, and ABC Corporations. I can already tell y'all about the freaking Rock Nation part. The Rock Nation part is essentially this. They have done musical business with Fat Joe since 2017. So basically, he's trying to sue them to get the money because it is alleged that he ain't been getting paid for touring, for songwriting, and all that stuff. I know y'all gonna be like, see, the Rock Nation, they are doing all these things. Yeah, no, that's just what it is for right here. That doesn't absolve Rock Nation of anything they may have done or they are doing. I don't really care. But as far as right here, I'm not gonna put paint where it ain't. So, trigger warning. This document contains highly graphic information of an X nature, including X assault. Additionally, there are graphic details of X trafficking and other criminal activity orchestrated by the defendants. The reason why I had to say X is it's way too early in this video for me to say the SCX word. They will demonetize the stuff. So this basically right here is Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organization Act and related violence under New York and Florida law, including unjust enrichment, quantum merit, fraudulent concealment, fraud, intentional infliction of emotional duress, and money laundering. The action arises from a deliberate and sustained campaign of exploitation wherein an internally recognized entertainer manipulates and abuses a creative partner through an organized network of enforcers, associates, and shell companies. Defendants systematically engage in coercive labor exploitation, financial fraud, manipulation, violent intimidation, and psychological coercion against plaintiff Dixon, all intended to enrich defendant Cartagena and his associates while deliberately suppressing, silencing, and erasing plaintiff's substantial creative, artistic, and commercial contributions, which were foundational to defendant Cartagena's professional success and personal brand. Preliminary statement. So this right here is what we're going to read. The longer version will be on the Seti Nash Clips channel. I'll pin the Seti Nash Clips channel in the comments, and y'all can basically go subscribe there. So when it drops, y'all can catch that right there. This action arises from a calculated, sustained, and multi-layered exploitation of a creative partner by an internationally recognized entertainer, aided by an extensive network of associates and corporate entities operating in concert to defraud, intimidate, and financially exploit plaintiff. More than 16 years, plaintiff Terrance Dixon, aka TA, dedicated his talent, labor, and loyalty to defendant Joseph Antonio Cartagena, professionally known as Fat Joe. During that period, plaintiff acted not only as Cartagena's hype man, but also contributed as a lyricist, background vocalist, security team member, and creative collaborator. Despite plaintiff's integral contributions, defendant Cartagena systematically excluded him from fair compensation, proper attribution, and the substantial royalties and profits generated from his creative labor. Instead, plaintiff was consistently underpaid, denied songwriting credits, and deliberately concealed from royalties and back-end compensation. Plaintiff Dixon contributed lyrics, vocals, and creative direction to numerous commercially successful songs performed and monetized by defendant Cartagena, including but not limited to the hits Congratulations, Ice Cream, Money Over Bees. Dixon's creative fingerprints, distinctive voice, and stage presence embedded in multiple critically acclaimed and commercially lucrative albums from which defendant Cartagena continues to profit without recognition or fair compensation of plaintiff. Defendant Cartagena's exploitation extended beyond financial fraud. He employed his industry influence and power dynamics to subject plaintiff to psychological coercion and economic control, forcing plaintiff into humiliating situations, including X acts performed under duress and surveillance, accompanied by threats of abandonment in foreign countries if plaintiff refused compliance. That's crazy. Defendant Cartagena deliberately withheld travel accommodations, misappropriated per diem payments, and exploited plaintiff's financial dependence and professional loyalty to ensure submission, silence, and domination. Assisting defendant Cartagena in maintaining his criminal enterprise were key associates and enforcers, including defendant Pistol Pete and Rich Player. Torres and Joseph Petri, Joseph Petri, I'm going to say Joseph Petri, actively engaged in physical threats, violent assaults, and intimidation tactics on Cartagena's explicit instructions, sustaining a climate of fear and coercion against plaintiff and others who challenged the enterprise's control. Defendant Erica Juliana Maria further facilitated Cartagena's fraudulent schemes through unauthorized legal representation, fraudulent corporate filings, and the creation of deceptive corporate structures that enabled the concealment and diversion of proceeds owed to plaintiff and the laundering of illicit funds. Corporate defendants Slate Incorporated and Sneaker Addict Touring LLC served as instrumental vehicles for the enterprise's sophisticated financial fraud and money laundering schemes. So I ain't gonna hold you. That right there is insane. Slate Incorporated operated as a central financial conduit, systematically concealing illicit proceeds. At the time, Sneaker Addict Touring LLC fraudulently secured federal paycheck protection program. Oh, he telling on the PPP loans? Damn, by falsifying business activities and diverting federal funds into the enterprise. Defendant Roc Nation LLC, the current management and representative entity for defendant Cartagena, knowingly participated in concealing, never mind, I should have read a little bit further. I take back everything I said. Transferring and manipulating plaintiffs' author rights and royalty interests. Roc Nation deliberately facilitated Cartagena's unlawful conduct by filing a meritless lawsuit against plaintiff and his counsel to intimidate, harass, and obstruct plaintiff's legitimate claims against Cartagena and his co-defendants. Never mind, I take that back. Basically, they defended Fat Joe, and he mad. I got you. Roc Nation, through its CEO, Desiree Perez, extracted 10% of all revenue generated by defendant Cartagena and his associated businesses, including through joint management of business records, oversight of touring revenue, and enforcement of policies plaintiff was required to follow during his work with defendant. As an aside, according to accountant Doe and former manager Doe, defendant Cartagena stole hundreds of thousands of dollars from Roc Nation and their CEO Desiree Perez when he accepted cash payments of up to $500,000 for performances he secured independent of Roc Nation. Oh, so he screwed over Roc. He telling Roc Nation on. Oh, okay. Upon information and belief, defendant Cartagena's actions went against his agreement with Ms. Perez. Defendant Cartagena, alongside Torres, Jaspertar, Maria, Slate Incorporated, Sneaker Addict Touring, LLC, and Roc Nation created and sustained a deliberately exploitive arrangement in which plaintiff was systematically denied proper compensation, authorship recognition, and lawful recourse. Over more than 16 years, defendant collectively enriched themselves through plaintiff's uncompensated labor, creativity, and professional contributions, generating substantial royalties, performance fees, and brand equity from which plaintiff received virtually no benefit. Additionally, defendants engaged in deliberate tax fraud schemes by submitting intentionally inflated and fraudulent income reports to the Internal Revenue Service, IRS, significantly overstating the actual compensation plaintiff received. Bruh, I know exactly what he's talking about. This shit just happened to me. This deliberate misrepresentation of plaintiff's income was designed to conceal defendants' extensive wage theft, artificially inflate plaintiff's tax liabilities, expose him to unwarranted tax audits and penalties, and systematically obscure the financial realities underlying plaintiff's exploited labor. Defendant Cartagena's criminal and fraudulent conduct is not speculative. It has been corroborated by first-hand witnesses, recorded phone calls, and documented evidence in the possessions of accountant Doe, who personally handled the financial affairs of Cartagena, and confirmed that plaintiff was intentionally excluded from formal payment systems. W-2s were falsely inflated and reported to IRS to create a fictitious paper trail. Defendant Cartagena personally collected $600,000 and $200,000 in cash at different times from UPNYC retail stores. Roc Nation received 10% of all revenue from Cartagena's businesses, and numerous financial records were fabricated or withheld to avoid paying plaintiff the royalties and compensation he was owed. Further confirming the illicit nature of defendant Cartagena's operation, employees at UPNYC, a small sneaker and apparel store, routinely funded luxury goods, including G-Wagons, Range Rovers, Rolexes, and designer clothing, despite earning little more than New York's minimum wage. Wow. The conspicuous consumption, combined with large volumes of cash-only transactions and complete absence of legitimate revenue documentation, reflects the store's role as a laundering front for the Cartagena enterprise, because he is telling on the store too. Man, defendant Cartagena earns an estimated $60,000 per month in royalties and at least $20,000 monthly in streaming revenue, none of which has ever been shared with plaintiff, despite his significant authorship and performance contributions to the monetized songs. In one documented instance, defendant Cartagena pocketed a $30,000 Live Nation performance check for the All the Way Up tour money that was rightfully allocated for plaintiff's contributions. Cartagena used those funds to pay off his back taxes owed to IRS, as confirmed by a witness who was part of his management team at the time. Plaintiff was not only exploited financially, but was also subjected to a wide spectrum of sexual coercion, psychological control, force, exhibitionism, I don't know how to say that, exhibitionism, yeah, that's what that is, exhibitionism, and surveillance-based humiliation, including being compelled to perform sex acts under observation, being filmed or directed by defendant in the presence of others, tactics designed to control plaintiff's body, erode his autonomy, and ensure silence. These sex-based abuses were not private, incidental, or isolated. They were integral to the enterprise's culture of dominance and humiliation, enforced by the defendant's associates such as Pistol P, JB, and others, as sustained across numerous tour locations, including Miami, North Carolina, Germany, Spain, and Wisconsin. What the hell y'all doing in Wisconsin, man? In Miami, on Market America's corporate yacht and its mansion properties, the defendant orchestrated repeated orgies. Oh, no. The creation of fraudulent pay stubs, the use of W-2s while filing 1099s, and the concealment of payroll fraud for enterprise gain are textbook RICO predicate acts under mail, wire fraud, and tax fraud statutes. The scheme furthers the enterprise's coercive structure and is directly tied to financial exploitation. Plaintiff, female dancers and minors. Defendant used his status as a corporate sponsor, celebrity influence, and financial control to compel plaintiff and others into degrading sexual performances, often while defendant watched, recorded, or directed the encounters. These incidents occurred under conditions that included the presence of corporate security staff, surveillance cameras, and defendant's management entourage. Yet, no intervention occurred supporting the inference that these acts were facilitated by and covered up by the broader enterprise and its affiliates. Defendant also used social media burner accounts, including, we just gonna say B and Dr. Z, to issue veiled death threats and witness intimidation such as, "You love your family, right? Fall back in 48 hours, we let you live." These statements were interpreted by plaintiff and his legal team as a part of a broader scheme to intimidate, silence, and obstruct plaintiff's participation in this case. These acts constitute violations of 18 U.S.C. 1512, witness tampering, and 18 U.S.C. 175D, interstate threats, to fall squarely within the pattern of violent racketeering activity under the civil RICO statute. So he's suing him with the RICO, bruh. In retaliation for asserting his rights, Roc Nation and defendant Cartagena jointly filed a baseless lawsuit against plaintiff and his counsel. The complaint, riddled with procedural defects and legal inaccuracies, was filed for the sole purpose of intimidating the plaintiff, diverting judicial resources, and chilling his First Amendment right to seek redress. The retaliatory lawsuit was intended not to prevail on legal merit, but to create public confusion, burden plaintiff's counsel with discovery costs, and dissuade other victims and whistleblowers from coming forward with evidence of defendant's enterprise activity. This conduct violates 42 U.S.C. 1895-2, conspiracy to obstruct justice, New York Judiciary Law 487, deceit or collusion by an attorney, and federal witness retaliation statutes under 18 U.S.C. 1512 B3. As a part of a coordinated cover-up, defendants submitted ghost contracts and backdated split sheets to performing rights organizations, PROs, including BMI and ASCAP, omitting plaintiff authorship credits. All those stuff right there, like the BMIs and ASCAPs, is like what they use to track like songs and how much they make and all that crap. All rappers and singers and all this crap, this is like they talk right there. That's like as rudimentary or as small as I can make it for y'all to understand. These records were created after the commercial release of the music falsely assigned 100% publishing rights to the defendant and his business entities. The fraudulent documents were designed to mislead royalty agencies, divert back-end payments, and erase plaintiff from the creative history of the works, even though plaintiff's vocals and lyrical contributions were readily identifiable on the tracks. These actions not only deprived plaintiff of at least $600,000 in projected royalties, but also ensured the exclusion from future listening, catalog valuation, and digital revenue diverted from streaming platforms. The fraudulent backdating and ghost contracts constitute predicate acts under 18 U.S.C. 1343, wire fraud, 18 U.S.C. 371, conspiracy, and New York Penal Law 17510, falsifying business records. The enterprise's financial arm further engaged in systematic laundering and tax evasion, as evidenced by repeated cash disbursements of over $200,000 and $600,000 at a time withdrawn from UPNYC with no documented ledger reporting mechanism or tax compliance. Defendant Cartagena's post-conviction tax conduct, including repeated failure to report foreign earnings, to use nominee entities, and cash-based laundering through corporate fronts, reflects the sophistication and scope of the enterprise's concealment strategies. These acts of structured concealment, misappropriation, and intimidation represent a pattern of criminal conduct carried out through an ongoing association. In fact, enterprise, meaning all elements under 18 U.S.C. 1962C, and supporting both closed-ended and open-ended continuity under RICO. I'm going to go down because there's some stuff that I had read. I didn't read that top part, as y'all can kind of tell. I just kind of skimmed through it. But, yeah, it gets crazy. There's a part, and this right here is kind of odd right here. I got to kind of push back on certain things, right? So during his time with defendant, plaintiff authored and co-authored dozens of songs, including but not limited to Congratulations, Money Over Bitches, Ice Cream, Cupcake, Blackout, Dirty Diana, Porn Star, Okay, Music, Ha, How Did We Get Here, No Problems, I Chopped Up, All the Way Up, 300 Brolic. Let me stop you right there. 300 Brolic was a stolen song. There's some kids from New York that actually produced that song and actually did that song. I think Fat Joe paid them for it, but yeah, I know personally that song was not Fat Joe's song. So yeah, Crack House, All I Do Is Remix verse, Red Cafe remix, Winding on Me, Coca Baby, and Get It for Life. These songs appeared on albums projects including Jose 2, The Dark Side Volume 1, Elephant in the Room, The Fugitive, Loyalty, and other collaborative efforts released through defendants' affiliated labels and distribution networks. At relevant times, defendant exercised sole control over contracts. We ain't even finna do all that. We just finna go down, right? And they're basically saying that this lawyer, right, she's the one who gave him bad contracts. This right here is not out of the realm of possibilities. I know everybody gonna be like, yo, money grab, money grab, money grab. I hear y'all, but there's part of that where I know for a fact that there are some dirty ass lawyers that put out bad contracts all the time. And that's why they say, all you rappers watching and listening, because I know you big time artists are watching this, get your own lawyer. Get your own lawyer. Don't listen to any of these cats. Diddy, Tyler Perry, which was the last video. Y'all go check that out. I read the whole entire lawsuit. I'm gonna stop reading the whole lawsuits and just put them on the Clips channel. But I don't know. Part of me says you've been working for this man for over 15 years. You telling me that within the 9th year, the 8th year, the 7th year, you didn't start just seeing, hey, bro, I need to document this stuff so I can get paid? Rappers, get your own lawyers, bro. There's one rapper in particular, I'm not going to say their name or anything like that, but they have a lawyer that is known for busting through contracts, civilly, all of that stuff and everything. And I'm like, bro, run with that lawyer. Don't go with what the label lawyer is telling you. We'll see how that comes out eventually. That'll be a story within itself. I got to kind of, start doing certain things because apparently these practices that we've heard about are common. If what is alleged of Fat Joe is true, hey Siri, how old is Fat Joe today? Fat Joe is 54 years old. So you telling me over 20 years ago this crap was going on? And don't make no mistake about this stuff. This type of stuff, sleeping with 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds in the hood, I hate to tell y'all this, but everywhere, bro, this is common in America. And I'm speaking from knowing that my grandmother, who was 15 years old, who married a 37-year-old man, not my grandpa, not mine, but yeah, bro, this type of stuff is hereditary. This shit is passed on to other individuals. And I'm not taking a shot at the culture, but ain't it odd how I'm from California, bro? So we very in tune with like Mexican culture, bro. I have a goddaughter who's a Mexican young lady, and we had what's called a quinceañera. At 15 years old, they were saying this young lady was grown. Still my baby to this day. But still, I'm talking like my child. Like if she called me right now, she needed $100, I got her. But it's stuff like that where like outsiders like us who would never be cool with this stuff. And I'm not saying this is indicative of Latino behavior because, bruh, I know when I was in high school, and I know some of y'all in here too, was like, bruh, that girl's so fine. And you was looking with your 15-year-old, 16-year-old self with no car, walking home, catching the bus or the school bus, and you see this cute girl that you like for like the last 2 years get in the car with a grown-ass man. If this is true, Fat Joe deserves everything that he gets. I don't want to make... I tell you, well, on this channel, what's provided is the ability to say every single time, bro, them parents... they need to be in jail too, because what the hell is your 15, 16-year-old daughter doing getting on planes and going cross country? Now, some people, in fact, Joe may even say that's not true or anything like that. And if he does, and it comes out in court, he's going to have to say, I didn't know her age. She was lying to me. And later that came out to be true. That's what he's going to have to eventually skate down to, because I'm fairly certain that man ain't just put that in that lawsuit for no reason. And them damn lyrics, now, red shirting a girl and everything like that, bro, you can do that if you're like 18, 19, and you tell, somebody like, hey, bro, man, when she turned 18, I'm on that. Like, I don't see no issue with that, but that means you don't touch nothing, you don't see nothing, you don't do anything. You know what I'm saying? Now, I say that's done that, hell nah, but I definitely will say that I heard cats definitely doing that. So it is what it is on that one. But if this is true, Rock Nation, y'all gonna have to get y'all an investigative team out there. Because when it comes to finances, it seemed to me that y'all fucking over a lot of people. And Desiree Perez, they told on you twice. They said you was doing bad business and you had bad business done to you. So you got front doored and you got back doored. Jay, you gonna have to start reevaluating people. But me thinks that if she started to come out and say certain things, yeah, them bad business practices gonna pop out. But hey, y'all done made it this far. Let me give you a little sneak peek into how effing crazy this stuff is. Stay tuned. Hit that like button like you like something. Subscribe, turn on bells to notify, and I will catch you on the next one. Diddy case coming up in about a couple hours. On at least one occasion, plaintiff explicitly resisted participating in a coerced ex-act encounter arranged by defendant. Defendant immediately retaliated by canceling plaintiff's scheduled flight home, deliberately stranding plaintiff without money, shelter, or support, thereby intentionally placing him in an isolated, unsafe, and highly vulnerable position abroad. These calculated and repeated acts of coercion served a clear purpose in defendant's enterprise, reinforcing plaintiff's ongoing subordination, obedience, and silence through humiliation, fear, and psychological domination. Compliance became a condition of plaintiff's continued employment, access to essential resources, safe travel, and basic human dignity. The defendant's use of coercive acts underpinned by the threat of job loss, abandonment, or physical harm meets the definition of trafficking by coercion under 18 U.S.C. 1591. Acts were induced not by choice but by fear, dependency, and fraud. Each encounter carried an unspoken message: refuse and you lose everything. Plaintiff estimates that over 16 years, he was coerced into more than 4,000 acts to maintain his standing within the enterprise. The defendant used these acts not merely for gratification, but as a control mechanism. By degrading plaintiff repeatedly and in front of others, he undermined plaintiff's autonomy, silenced his resistance, and made him emotionally and physically dependent on defendant's approval. The psychological toll was immense. The defendant developed symptoms consistent with PTSD, including flashbacks, intrusive thoughts, panic attacks, and emotional detachment. He remains in trauma-enforced therapy and continues to experience deliberating anxiety. These experiences were not private or confidential. Enterprise members, including JB, Raul, Pistol Pete, and security staff, routinely witnessed and participated in these coercive dynamics.